Eldevin is the second game in the worst MMO ever series, which lets you animation clip your head inside a sheep's arse while you're shearing it. This wasn't a design pattern I expected to find in MMO games, but here we are. Unfortunately, in my 20 hours of gameplay, this is the only memorable moment. Have you ever been on a school trip or a holiday as an adult and met someone else, either from another school or another family on holiday, and you get on really well with them, you enjoy your time together, you promise to stay in touch, but when you return home from wherever you are, you just never see them again? Eldevin is the game version of that. So welcome, I'm Josh Stripe-Hayes and this is Worst MMO Ever, a show where I play every MMO I can find in a journey to find the worst. Drop a like on the video or sub to the channel for more MMO stuff, click the bell for all the future notifications, and as always, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, Twitch and YouTube who keep the channel alive. More information on this at the end. For now, let's begin. Eldevin is a lightweight 3D RuneScape clone which released back in 2013 and launched on Steam in 2014 and then stopped being substantially supported around 2016 and yet somehow is still alive, so let's download it and give it a go. Very first thing, Eldevin is a fantasy MMORPG made by Hunted Cow Studios, a game company based in Scotland, so I had a look at their website and they also run the Warhammer mobile game Chaos and Conquest, the sci-fi game New Earth and the fantasy RPG Fallen Sword, but is it just me, or does the Fallen Sword font look exactly like the Final Fantasy font? I even used a font generator to check, and yeah, that's just a blatant ripoff. So Eldevin launches. There's a button for the new player guide, so I click it, and the first super strange issue. The new player guide opens in a browser window within the launcher of the game. But the launcher of the game cannot be maximized or resized at all. And the guide window I have opened within it is limited to that window itself. And I can't drag the launched player guide outside of the launcher window. So first of all, you can't read the guide, but even if you could, the guide is a forum link written in 2013, so it might be slightly out of date, being 10 years old. You know what? Doesn't matter. I'm sure we'll figure it out. So I click the settings icon. I have two choices: safe mode and cancel. This implies that I'm currently running dangerous mode, which I like. Character creation, you've got the three main body types: skinny, muscular, and hairy. So I choose muscular, and our adventure begins 10 years in the future. Movement is left click or WASD. Holding right click spins the camera. Movement feels responsive, so this is nice. The graphics are basic, there's no high resolution textures or shadows, but that's fine. Stylized is often better. It seems that we are a super powerful max level fighter, and we watch as a troll breaks into the castle, and I have to say, I really like how the gate breaks in actual sections. Praise where it's deserved. The animations in Eldevin are super accurate. The troll and its minions are clearly bad, and we are clearly good, so behold, combat. Double-clicking starts the auto-attack. You've got your hotbar to the bottom, and the intro fight actually tells you to use your abilities and gives you a single target and AoE ability, which is nice, so there's some variety. I level up from the first fight, and this is a Steam achievement held by 65% of players. And if you ever need a perfect example of extreme player drop-off, there it is. 35% of people didn't make it from downloading the game to the tutorial fight. I have a browse of the menus. There is no UI scaling, which is super annoying as my monitor resolution makes everything look tiny. You know what? You can join Dungeons & Dragons Online on the naughty step for that. And then we push further into the city and meet the Infernal Empire Brute, who in a lovely stabbing animation just annihilates this dude. There's an in-game cutscene of us running into the castle, and then we see a magical duel between King Ryan and evil Emperor Tristan. The magical energy explodes and we are thrown into a black void, sending us back 10 years to the present. And here we have lost our armor, levels, and memory, and this is where the game starts. That's a similar opening to Rift, start in the future and get sent back. And Rift released 2 years before Eldevin. I wonder if they copied. This will be a theme we see again and again. So in the past, or present I suppose, I press some keys randomly. Q opens the quest journal, which is actually really well organized, more on this later. M opens the map, which is fine, if a little crowded icon-wise, and then my cursor disappears in the game. Now the recording software, and the footage that you're watching, can still pick it up, but the actual game client doesn't. Look, I've filmed this on my phone to show you. OBS, the recording software, picks up the cursor fine, but the game doesn't show anything. Now, if I cursor over icons in the game, the buttons still light up as if the cursor is there, so the game is still registering it, but it's just not showing it, which is not a great start. This handy-dandy trainer gives me an axe and tells me to equip it, and the inventory is a grid system, kind of like Diablo. Different size items take up different amounts of space, and this is fine. The character equip screen is nicely laid out and shows all the obvious equipment slots and character stats, and this is also fine. And then with a weapon equipped, you can auto-attack a dummy. You actually have two auto-attacks, a melee attack and a ranged attack. Melee will use whatever melee weapon you're equipped with, and ranged weapons will use your ranged weapon. But if you don't have a ranged weapon equipped and try to use a ranged auto-attack, you'll just throw rocks, and this system continues to be fine. We then get given a bow, and now we're firing arrows, and you don't need to track your ammo, which is lovely. And when we level up, we get given skill points to assign to one of the 6 main stats, and I'm thinking a ranged build, so we're gonna go there. This system is impressively fine. We now learn magic. We get given a scroll and told to right-click and memorize it, and you actually learn all your abilities for all combat styles, melee, range, and magic from memorizing single-use scrolls, either given to you through quests or sold through vendors. And when you've learned an ability, it goes into your ability book, and you open the book with B. B for abilities. We learn a heal spell, and then the local priest lady says, hey, go and help people. It might help you get your memory of the future back. So we do that, and your quest book notes down what you should be doing and is organized in a really interesting way. You've got these tabs here, which link to overall quest line, and then specific steps within that quest line, and then specific quests themselves. So it's almost like a flow chart of goals, and it's lovely and easy to follow. Unfortunately, you can only have one quest step active at a time, and your active step has a purple arrow on the minimap pointing the way. The main map also shows a purple question mark for the final location. This system is, as every other system seems to be, fine. Inside the Mage's Tower, we get given a magical rock, which, when equipped, makes all of our ranged attacks now do magical mud damage, and you can have either a magical rock or a ranged weapon equipped, but not both. From here, we enter into the Aphex Void, similar to the void which threw us through time, but with more magical flowers and less time travel. The mages want some midges killed, so we oblige, and then get some armor for our troubles. We're then teleported further inland for more tutorial, but in a lovely touch, the teleport spell actually has an animation to show you where you're going. This helps with navigation and ties the world together, relating one place to another place. This is better than fine. This is quite nice. We use our magical powers to help the local guards by killing a load of beetles and then a load of boars, because if we don't, clearly the local beetle-boar alliance would threaten the stability of the city. And then I meet this relic merchant selling beetle armor. I mean, that's one way to establish dominance: wear the bodies of your enemies. On the way to the main town, I meet this local merchant. He has lost his goods in a nearby cave, so asks us to help. And another mechanic: your hotbars 1 through 9 cannot hold potions, only abilities or emotes. Potions must be placed on the potion hotbar, which is linked to Control 1 through Control 4. This is limiting in a hotbar setup situation, but also done so you don't need to waste combat skill space on potions, making it ultimately, again, fine. Head into the cave to find the merchant's goods, discover the walls are made of slowly melting jelly, and then kill some goblins, and this feels very reminiscent of late PlayStation 1, early PlayStation 2 era adventure games. The square layout, the straight lines, the brown textures, the simple combat. I'm not hating it, I'm just not totally sold that it's worth my time either. This bit does genuinely make me laugh, however. You find the merchant's goods in a chest, so you return them to him, which makes him yell, "Oh my, just remembered, my wife is in there as well!" Which is just fantastic. What a focused entrepreneur. Hustle culture through and through. Got that Sigma grind set mentality. Save the merchandise. Oh yeah, my wife might also be dead. Find the wife, and there's a nice bit of characterization as the wife refuses to leave until the merchant himself comes to rescue her, and then we earn our first talent point. Eldevin has 6 talent trees, and you can put points into any of them to build a hybrid class style of your liking. But you won't be able to level all of them to max. Talents range from passive buffs to activated abilities, and I'm thinking a ranged class seems pretty good, so I'm going ranged DPS. Achieving a talent point is also a Steam achievement, and 22% of players have it. So this took me about an hour to get, meaning between the opening and 1 hour in, you have lost 80% of new players on Steam. This dude then tells us about quest icons: yellow for main storyline quests, blue for gathering and crafting, green for disconnected side quests, orange for group quests, red for elite, and grey for you're not high enough level yet. Exclamation marks are ready to give quest, and question marks are ready to complete or hand in, but not really. Because let's say you're told, hey, go and kill 10 bears. Well, the hand-in area will have a yellow question mark appear immediately, which you think means ready to hand in, because if it wasn't ready, it would be grayed out, following the rules it's just set down. But it doesn't. it always appears yellow. It doesn't mean you've done it, it means this is the hand-in person. You need to manually check you've actually got the items they want before you talk to them. The icon doesn't change to show that. Combine this with the fact you can only have one tracked quest active at a time shown on the map, and it makes quest organizing a chore, meaning you have to go through every one manually, find what they want, find whether you've got it, and then go and give it to them. This system is decidedly not fine. More drama between the merchant and his wife ends up with us trying to kill a hobgoblin, and the first mini-boss really highlights the limitations of both the super simple combat system and the solo nature of an MMO with no players. It's extremely simplistic, just tank the damage and hit back. You also can't move while shooting a ranged weapon, which is a major limitation when playing solo. Now, Eldevin does have an undeniable charm to it. There's something comforting about the retro, the nostalgia conjured by a place you've never been because of how similar the design is to what you already know. Low poly models, basic textures, simple lighting, direct quests, but it's also a great example of how nostalgia tends to warp our view of what worked and why it worked. We'll see more examples of this later, and how yearning for the past isn't always the best way to survive into the future. The boss drops some better throwing knives, so I equip them, leave the cave, try and talk to the merchant, but accidentally misclick and then just nail the squirrel with a throwing knife. My bad. Although, given the local guard's opinion of the nearby wildlife, I'm probably owed some kind of medal for this. Completing that quest gives us a bound experience potion, and this pop-up tells us about the shop. So okay, let's get this out of the way nice and early. How bad is the shop? Eldevin is free, but you can become a paying monthly member if you like. Members get increased everything: experience, money, dungeon resets, mount training, bag space, premium currency delivered daily. You get the idea.
While exploring the shop, I found something weird as well. You can buy potions, both health and mana potions, whenever you want, wherever you are, from the shop for silver, which kind of completely negates the point of having in-game marketplaces at all.
The shop itself sells experience boosts, instant teleport items, better pets and mounts, basically everything. You can throw money at Eldevin and do pretty well. Now, that's not to say the free experience is bad. I found my 20 hours in the game to be absolutely fine. But the shop does offer advantage that's undeniable. But the cosmetics, yeah, they've done that thing where a game clearly reaches its limit on sensible in-universe aesthetic cosmetics, and now you can just buy football helmet overrides. All MMOs eventually, unfortunately, reach a point where selling joke real-world cosmetics will make money, and that's usually a pretty obvious red flag that the game is starting to value money over aesthetic cohesion within itself. And this is normally a downward spiral of, if your game starts to take itself as a joke, it becomes a massive joke. You can also spend real money to buy Eldevin points and then switch those points for gold in the game. So yes, there is a multi-step process to exchanging real money for gold, and gold buys and fixes basically everything. And now we reach the city. Oh, it's the same one we were at 10 years in the future from now earlier. But you can't enter without accepting the advanced training questline. And the first quest in the city is literally called Walking Tour, sending you all over to all the relevant places in the most uninspired utilitarian quest ever. Walk here. This is what this place does. Move on. I've also noticed you can't jump, which makes navigating a bit more challenging, as a small cart or decorative pool is now an insurmountable barrier. I do, however, like the humorous dialogues the NPCs have occasionally. This city cleaner says he used to be a naked flaming torch dancer until the accident. I feel you, mate. We've all been there. So we head to uptown and then downtown and then turn the beat around town before finally finding this statue. It's a blacksmith making, as the game says, the legendary bacon blade. Ah, right, we're doing early 2000s humor. Okay, I've got it. Do we also need those mustache tattoos on the side of our finger? Is Chuck Norris involved? Let me just jump on MSN real quick. I have a quick nap in this random house because I'm a menace to society, and then admire the decorative drunks in the slums. Again, praise where it's due. The small touches do make the city feel alive. And then, my God, another player. So I say hi and no response. You know what, I'll try again later. Pressing X opens the gathering and crafting menu. You've got 7 gathering skills, all the usual: woodcutting, mining, farming, and then 8 crafting, from armor and weaponsmithing to gem cutting. I'll try them all later. I find the Dragon Aviary, which is a quick travel station similar to World of Warcraft's Griffins. You can only travel to places you've discovered, and then we get given a homestone, which teleports you back to the main city, kind of like a Hearthstone. I'm guessing this is the moment the designer thought, we've copied RuneScape enough. Let's copy something else. No one will notice. And now a rather annoying UI issue, which is genuinely the single most irritating design choice I faced over the entire 20-hour gameplay. Pressing hotkeys opens or closes windows, like I opening or closing the inventory, Q for the quest list, M for the map. But then you can also click and drag these windows around the screen. Now, some of them remember the place you've dragged them to and will open there again. Like the inventory, you can move this wherever, close it, open it, same position. But some boxes, most notably the quest box and the character stats screen, will always reset to their default position every time you open them, even if you've moved them. And the quest list defaults to top right, which covers the minimap. So every single time I reopen the quest list, I have to drag it down to see where the purple direction pointer is, then close the quest list because it takes up a lot of space, and then open it again to change quests. Please fix this, because it's super annoying. Now we're given a massive lore dump through text about 6 magical orbs, which the kingdom apparently needs to be safe, and then we're shown some super advanced magic. This means going to the Arcane Council's cool clubhouse, which teleports you to this badass floating city. There's even a magical signpost pointing you in the right direction, and in a nice touch, when asked if you've completed a quest, you can just lie and say yes when you haven't, but this doesn't actually do anything because they know you're lying. Throw some knives at some wisps, and then another nice touch. When you finish a quest, it automatically asks what you would like to set as the next active quest, which is a smooth transition from one to the next. Some random person adds me as a friend, and I discover you can inspect people's equipment from anywhere. You just need to right-click their username, and it seems that I'm now friends with Cthulhu. Archer training next. This sends me to the sewers to kill 10 plague archers. Oh, yeah, there's a plague going on in the city, because that's like a super efficient way to copy both RuneScape and Warcraft in one go. I learned the hemorrhage skill, so now my ranged attacks do bleed damage, and the army commander needs me to go and investigate a lost wagon outside the city, another lost merchant. I get given some new items, and when you cursor over an equipable item, the tooltip shows you the upgrade or downgrade compared to your currently equipped items in little brackets, which is fine. Kill some bandits and try to find the auto-run button. Eldevin is mostly just running from A to B, then combat or gathering, but my god, there is a lot of running, so auto-run is bound to nothing. There is no auto-run. I did, however, find a forum post asking about when auto-run will be added. The post is from 2014, 9 years ago. I guess they've been too busy to add it. We're sent into the sewers to do something. Honestly, this city has a lot of problems. Bandits, zombies, the squirrels wanting my head. There's a lot of issues, and they're all solved with varying degrees of killing things. But look, a valve puzzle to stop some steam. That's nice, a bit of interaction with the map. You know, Eldevin, at least in the sewers, feels like Dragon Age Light, like a cheap knockoff version. I think a good description would be, there is a film studio called The Asylum. They make mockbusters of bigger films. Basically, they wait until a big film releases, then they make a very similar sounding knockoff and hope that some elderly person mistakes it for the real thing in a bargain bin somewhere, and then you have to fake appreciation when you unwrap Transmorphers for Christmas when you wanted Transformers. Eldevin is basically that kind of design, but of RuneScape, Dragon Age, and Warcraft. The strange thing is, Eldevin as a game is not bad, but much like the mockbuster films, it's not designed to be good, or to at least do its own thing in a good way. It's designed to ride off the coattails of good choices that other games have made and hope that you stick with it. Essentially, Eldevin does nothing wrong because it does nothing uniquely Eldevin. It is a collection of proven mechanics from other games, easy to run graphics, and a passable mesh of questlines. It's the store brand Cocoa Pops. You're not unhappy to have a bowl, you just know they're copying something better. Another UI issue. The map updates to help you navigate, and when you have a quest to finish, it highlights the travel route with a purple question mark. But it doesn't highlight the end of the route, it highlights its suggested route that it thinks you should take. So I need to get to the barracks, but it doesn't highlight the barracks, it highlights what it believes to be the fastest route, which is sometimes going in or out of a very specific building, often the last building you went into. And if you use a different exit or a shortcut, the map doesn't update to give you the new fastest route. It still tells you to go where it thinks you should go, even though it's wrong, and this happens a lot. These water graphics are the epitome of fine. I get what they are, they work, they are not memorable. Eldevin is this, but with every choice it makes. Wonder how many people are playing. On Steam, right now, 13. Wonder what the Reddit is like. Oh, well, MMORPG declared it dead years ago. Although, let's be real, r/MMORPG declare every MMO either dead or dying on release. No one hates MMOs more than the MMORPG subreddit, and I guarantee when Eldevin dies, they will blame me for this as well. And you know what? They'll be goddamn right. Another quest needs me to go and find another merchant, and is every merchant in this game just terrible at navigation? How does anything get delivered? Every merchant we have met is dead or lost. Here's a nice touch. When the view of your character is blocked in the foreground by a tree, the tree will fade out, but only the upper section, leaving the inner trunk and base visible, which I think looks really cool. This dude is helping us to fix a sword, but needs 14 copper bars, so let's learn some smithing. This means buying a pick from the shop and then mining some ore, which is basically exactly like RuneScape. Click and wait. So gathering skills and their associated production skills are interesting because producing anything often needs, let's say, 1 or 2 gathered ingredients and 1 purchased one. You always need a purchased ingredient in every step of any process. For example, making copper bars need copper ore, which you mine, coal, which you mine, but then a vial of weak flux, which is only sold by blacksmiths. 2 gathered resources and 1 bought one. To make leather armor, you need to skin an animal and then turn that hide into leather using both the hide itself, some animal fur, which is also found on animals, and then acidic salts, which are sold by the tanning vendors. Basically, every single gathering profession gives some of the materials needed for the final product, but you always need to buy something, and these things are single use. Turning that copper bar into a weapon, that needs you to use sharpening stones. Making metal armor needs rivets. Crystal cutting needs abrasive polish. This means every single skill is also a gold sink, which is a way to keep inflation down. Not that you're going to suffer much inflation with 24 players, but hey, it's the thought that counts. Another nice touch, you can view recipes for most skills from the crafting window, but not every skill. Please update this to show how much stuff you need to, say, smelt bars in the forge, because there's nowhere to find that out in-game. The forging animation, though, is quite nice. You can see the ore turn into a bar while you're holding it in the metal tongs. The max equipment seems to be level 60, the infernal stuff, and even then the numbers on the armor and weapons are quite low, double digits, and I'm a fan of this design. It's like Guild Wars 1, keeping the numbers low, it slows down power creep, and it keeps the numbers themselves instantly and easily readable. I just do every quest as I find it, including learning how to fish, which makes Eldevin a real MMO, and then I plant some seeds and tend to my farm, and here's a nice touch. To farm, you need to weed the patch, then plant a seed, then water it, and wait. But while waiting, 3 bars appear. Growth progress, water remaining, and disease, showing how much crop you've lost. But these 3 bars are actually 3D within the world, attached to the model of the farm plot itself, and things grow fast, so you're not waiting long. So we gather our flax, learn to use the loom, learn how to pick apples from trees, learn how to gemcraft in the mine, and another nice touch, items within your inventory, which are currently being used in a production skill or process, have a little timer on them so you can see what is being accessed. You know, the only animation I've found so far that I'm not a fan of is this woodcutting one, because it feels too gentle, too dainty, like I'm gently tapping the tree with my axe, one-handed, like we're playing tag. Then another player appears, and I discovered you can hear other players' sound effects on full volume. So he's processing timber into planks, something I need to do. So I go and do it, and it's loud, and both the sound effects overlay each other. Stacking sound effects aside, this is legitimately another player, Nordman. So I say, hey, how's it going? And he runs away. I mean, yeah, I'd probably do the same. Turn some copper into ingots for jewelry, then skin some pigs for hides, and now I'm thinking, okay, now I feel like I have the skills to survive in this world. Yeah, the start with the whole time travel thing was a little bit rocky, basically copying Rift, but now I feel somewhat self-sufficient, which is a good feeling to have in an open MMO. There's even a quest to collect some litter around town, which really helps brighten up the place and has you feel connected to the city. And then, why is this hopscotch animation so detailed? Why is it so accurate? The rock throw, the pickup, the hops, the balancing. This is the most needlessly detailed background animation I have found. There is even a quest in this theatre, which is quite nice, about using gestures to entertain a crowd, and this introduces the players to emotes, so check out my funky dance moves. Ladies, please form an orderly queue. The Funkmeister will be with you shortly. This guy sells mounts. He is stood on a magical floating disc. I mean, kudos for not having horses, although RuneScape doesn't have horses either, so you probably didn't know what to copy. You can see the riding vendor has adopted the traditional martial arts stance, clearly ready to fight off anyone trying to steal the rocket ship from behind him. Riding needs the riding skill, which costs 5 gold, which I do not have, so I'll come back to later when I do. Found a slight UI issue on the crafting screens. This shows how many raw materials you need for your selected recipe, but as you increase the amount of the recipe you'd like to make, this doesn't change. It only ever shows how many you need to make one. Consider having this update, so whenever you increase the amount you're trying to make, the amount of raw materials you need also increases. But we've got no time to craft. We've been summoned by the prince himself, who apparently lives inside the pyramid level from Tomb Raider 1. The prince asks if you can remember the future yet, and now you get a multiple choice memory test, and you can't fail this, so I think the next section, which is an instanced memory, actually changes based on what you choose. This wizard probes your memory by shooting marbles at you, and I'd remember being a ranger fighting a dark dragon, and now I get to be a ranger fighting a dark dragon. It's here I'm thinking, if this was released in, say, 2002 or maybe even 2003, it would be really well received. But to put this into perspective, this was released in 2013. 1 year after Guild Wars 2, 1 year before The Elder Scrolls Online, so it had some major competition there. But that's okay, because it wasn't really going for the modern crowd. It was essentially a replacement for RuneScape. RuneScape had made the evolution of combat mistake a few years ago, and players wanted to recapture the old school feeling. Eldevin would be there for them. But unfortunately for Eldevin, old school RuneScape released a few months prior, kind of eating up the entire player base they were hoping to get. This dragon fight, though, is actually quite good. Waves of your own troops charge it, skeletons are resurrected to help the dragon, AoE attacks, healers are healing you, good music, decent animations. This is not a bad little fight. Back in the palace, we are rewarded with a flaming bow and sent on our merry way. This guy has a daily skinning quest for us, and currently I'm having something close to fun, so I'm going to avoid dailies like the plague. Oh hey, the plague, that's still a thing in town. Maybe we should return to stopping that. But first, let's explore the countryside, and another area Eldevin really shines in. The city and sewers may feel very PlayStation 1 generic, but the open areas feel very classic video game fantasy, and I like them. The variations in the trees makes the forests feel fantastic, and the rolling green fields have that lovely fantasy shine. Everything is a bit too bright, a bit too perfect, and it makes the place feel happy fantasy, and it works. It's the opposite of Game of Thrones, and honestly it's quite endearing. We now learn the meditation skill, which can activate obelisks and give you a 1-hour passive buff, and then I try to finish every single tutorial quest. I'm about 8 hours in by now, and this is normally a place I'd consider stopping, but Eldevin has very few, if any, quit moments, and this is why I understand people who play it. A quit moment, as I've mentioned before, is the moment a player is presented with a mechanic, a situation, or a line of dialogue, anything in-game that makes them stop playing and then kills their desire to return. Eldevin has played it safe. So safe, in fact, it's made no mistakes. Now, they say the man who makes no mistakes doesn't usually make anything, and in-game design it's quite similar. Eldevin has made no mistakes because it's taken what works in other games and copied them, which means there's nothing that feels uniquely Eldevin. It has no defining features of its own. You know the old physics law about an object at rest will remain at rest unless an outside force acts upon it? Eldevin is kind of similar. There is no reason to start playing, but if you do start playing for whatever reason, there is also no reason to stop playing. It's a perfect, well, I'm here now, might as well carry on game. It's the gamified version of the concept of fine. Unfortunately, for every hyper-accurate hopscotch animation, you get the smithing animation, which is just you pounding the air with the hammer. Eventually, nighttime falls and the streetlights come on, which is again a lovely bit of ambience. The crystal shop even has its display crystal light up, which is a lovely touch. Oh, if you do make something or get a boss drop but your inventory is full, that item will be held in a temporary inventory to the top left, which I didn't notice because it bleeds into the map. I try some global chat, adding a little smiley on the end because I'm a digital boomer and still think this is how cool people type, and what is that smiley? What is that? That looks like a deformed fox. The local player base does, however, seem friendly, offering me some powerful items and armor, which is a kind gesture, but giving a new player a super powerful thing often kills the joy of progression because you've just removed the challenge of the gameplay, mostly the reason to play a grindy game. This is an actual issue as I research some more. It seems the game is mostly built around grinding dungeons for equipment, and some dungeons need a team, but the dungeons don't have level scaling, and this means that very low players end up being carried by very high players. Because there is such a low number of players, you cannot get an equally leveled build team together. It ends up being high levels one-hitting everything for the lows, and that's fun for no one. So we go and shear the sheep, kneel down, and just stick our head right up its arse. This means Eldevin joins Shroud of the Avatar in the very exclusive club of MMOs which can give a sheep a colonoscopy. A huge amount of running back and forth later, and I need weeds for an alchemy recipe. So I rake a farming patch because they're covered in weeds. Surely that will give me some weeds, but no, they're the wrong type of weeds. So I checked the wiki, and right, I see my mistake. I needed weeds, so I interacted with the weeds, assuming it would give me weeds. But what I really needed to do was interact with the weeds so I could get some weeds. Silly me, what an obvious mistake. It seems that red apple trees need 6 foraging because I'm just not skilled enough to pick those apples. In fact, the entire game world is divided into leveled sections. The opening northeast is 1 to 6 mostly, then southeast is 6 to 10, north is 11 to 16, and south seems to be 16 plus. So following the quest lines and interacting with at least half the skills you pass will level you up. This does, however, mean that the game world itself is divided into arbitrary level-restricted areas. Instead of feeling like there's a bit of something for everyone in every section, it is very specifically, if you are low level, train here. Oh, also, while there is a woodcutting skill, you can only cut very, very specific types of trees. Not every tree. Most trees are just decorative. In a nice touch, crafted potions are substantially better than their store-bought versions, really giving weight to the alchemy skill. And then cooking needs me to make some bread, and this needs wheat, so back to the farm again. So far, Eldevin has made a lot of small, good choices and done nothing majorly wrong because it's done nothing majorly different, so I wonder what the update schedule is actually like. How often is new stuff added to this game? I mean, they're still asking if I want to become a paying supporter, so clearly there is something that they are supporting. Well, the main site tells me that the Love Bites Valentine's event is happening, and before that there was the Icicles End Christmas event, before that the Halloween event, the Howling, then Summer Passing Pirate event, and then the Springtide Salivation. And then before that, the Love Bites event from last year. Wait, did they have an entire year where they only added holiday events? I mean, that's bad, but at least they're adding holiday events. Are they new events? No, they're not. They are the same holiday events they've recycled for the past 5 years. In fact, the last actual development update post was in 2016. This means they have been releasing nothing but the same cycle of 5 holiday events for the last 7 years. And yet, every time you log in, there's a small box asking if you'd like to support the game and become a paying member. Paying for what, Eldevin? Another 7 years of the same 5 holiday events? I kite this sheep for 10 minutes and discover that once you've drank a potion, there's an intoxication timer where you can't drink another potion, meaning you can't just chug low-level stuff constantly. You're encouraged to upgrade to better potions, and this design is fine. And then I try to use an ability with no mana and discover that your character is indeed voiced, but this seems to be their only voice line.
I require more mana!
Small movement issue, probably a result of going from click to move to WASD. If you run into a wall using WASD, you won't just stay running into it, you'll actually get bounced back, which feels really jarring. I'm just holding movement in this clip one direction, so I'd expect to just keep pushing into the small wall, but no, the bounce movement thing is really odd. And as I find out later, it makes navigating forest an absolute chore as you get knocked around like a pinball if you're too close to multiple trees. Make a campfire in the designated campfire zone and then get sent to the sewer to kill some slugs. I'm sure that Eldevin was made in response to people crying, "We want classic MMOs like they used to be," but what game devs forget is the crowd driven by passion for their specific game how it used to be don't want a new game somewhat similar to how their old favourite game used to be. They want their exact old game exactly as it used to be, and nothing else will sate them. This is why people who wanted old school RuneScape played similar games until old school RuneScape actually came back, and then they went to that. This is why when people say they want a game like EverQuest, they can just go and play EverQuest, either retail or Project 99. They don't want your game trying to be classic, they want their exact game being as it was. Your game is just a stopgap, and it will not hold players, as shown by these kinds of games not holding players. Trying to make a game to capture the nostalgia crowd will only hold them until what they're actually nostalgic for returns. Eventually I die and get told, hey, it's okay, you can revive without penalty because you're a new player. Look, Eldevin, I'm like 10% of your player base right now. You are not in a position to throw out death debuffs. You want people sticking around. You've avoided quit moments. Don't start now. Finally, I hit level 10 and unlock PvP, so I queue up for PvP, and after 20 minutes, the PvP queue has not popped, so I adventure and unlock a dungeon, a group instance. I like these. Now, thankfully, you can just do group instances in solo story mode, so I do that. The guard house instance is fine. The aesthetics remind me of Hero Quest, one of the best board games ever. If only I had the broadsword, I'd be sorted. Kill the boss, take their head, hand it in, all good. But each dungeon has multiple mini-quests within it, so back in we go. The Warden's Henchman AI could use a little work though, because they just stand around waiting to be attacked. I've also realised that this game feels cold because the idle animation of everyone, be it enemy, shopkeeper, friendly NPC, is the same. Just standing still, straight up, arms down by your side. Please, vary your NPC's idle animations, otherwise your town feels like a video game. If you've ever been browsing Netflix and something starts to autoplay, and you don't want to watch it, but it's playing now, and stopping it from playing would be more effort than just lying there doing nothing and watching the entire thing. So you do watch the entire thing, although you don't really want to. Eldevin is the game version of that feeling. So while we're doing some farming, let's have a read of some reviews. You should play this game, but I have a few issues with the game. First of all, there's not that many players. I don't mind that because I'm a lunatic that likes to play MMOs by myself, but if you're looking for a full, robust player base to play with, you're not going to find it. Second is, you can't abandon quests. I have a hefty quest log of tutorial quests that I don't care to follow up on, but they're just going to sit there in my quest log forever. Game is fun, but lacks updated content. Community deserves an applause for keeping the game going where the developers have failed to show care or dedication to their creation. It's a good game with a nice community. I love it, and for being free makes it that much better. Has the old school feeling to it with all sorts of skills to level up and a never-ending supply of quests. It's like if WoW and RuneScape had a love child. It's a pretty interesting game, but sadly development is mostly dead already. Last update was a copy and paste event from last year, and going by older players, they didn't even take the time to edit the text to remove parts that were no longer valid. So it's the old song and dance we know all the moves to already. MMO releases, doesn't hold a player base, gets forgotten. I teleport back to the main town using the homestone and then try to teleport using a teleport scroll to get to a local village and get told, no, your rechargeable homestone and single-use teleport scrolls, for some reason, share a cooldown. Why? So instead I mine an absolute ton of copper and coal and try to make full copper armor, which takes ages because of the tile infantry system, so I just give up and join the army instead. They want things killed, which is par for the course for the army, so I go and kill things. 20 plague pests, the grinding begins, let's do this. Eldevin is such a good example of being fine at everything but great at nothing. It's very hard to recommend something with no low points if it also has no high points. It's annoying to no one, which means at the same time it's appealing to no one. Every single player will say, ah yes, I can see why other people would play Eldevin because it has something other people like. However, it doesn't do the specific thing I enjoy as well as my favourite game. And that's its main weakness. It has a little bit of everything, but you need a lot of something to keep a player base, and Eldevin has a lot of nothing. We run through this cave filled with Tiberium for some reason and get sent north to the village of Northam. You know, I was going to make a joke about that naming convention, but I'm from the UK. We legitimately have places called Northam, Southam, Eastham and Westham, and yet not a place called Ham between them. Help the clergy with a ghost problem, and while doing so, the camera clips into this NPC's face. Never has a low poly face spoke to me with such pained emotion. Me too, dude. Me too. I've been playing about 12 hours in total by now, and even with me pushing to complete quest lines, I'm still on the opening map doing the opening tutorial style quests. But here is a nice touch. A waste bucket gets thrown from an upper window onto the street below. Purely visual, but I like it. Oh cool, you can zoom the camera out and play in bird's eye view directly top down in case you wanted to take every corner like the opening scene from Collateral. Break into this house and open a safe by reading this dude's diary and seeing that he accidentally left the combination in code, and oh hey, a dungeon queue mechanic, let's queue up. Average wait time 0 seconds. Damn, that's fast. So I wait for 30 minutes to see what happens. Nothing. Nothing is what happens because right now I am the only person on Earth queuing for this dungeon. So I go into the crypt and kill a miner, not a child, someone who mines. Then I steal their pickaxe and then notice, is the background music speed matched to the running cycle animation of the character? Like, do the music beats match my steps? Because I think they do. Unfortunately, you'll just have to take my word that they definitely do match up because YouTube did not like me playing that music at all. This quest needs me to steal a painting from this dude, and why is he painting Lara Croft? That's just not even slightly alike, that is just straight up a picture of Lara Croft. I think there's meant to be a stealth mechanic here, because if you just blatantly take the painting, some bodyguards just take it back, but no, you just keep stealing it until they fail to take it back off you. And then I meet another player, Wolfic Dolphic, and you best put some respect on that name, because he is the number 3 player in the world this week. Royalty, actual in-game royalty right here. Next quest has me kill the painter dude, and I love how when he dies he just says, "Oh dear," like it's a slight inconvenience.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Kill some rats, get a crossbow, which turns out to be a medieval machine gun, go and kill some more zombies, track the plague infestation to the sewers, mercy kill this army captain because he has the plague, and by now I'm about 15 hours in, which in gaming time is about 0.8 chrono triggers, or 45 the bouncers. Why, when you have such genuinely nice looking forests, do you open with a 12-hour sewer crawl questline? This current questline is fixing an epic sword, so I'm being sent all over the place, which is quite nice. And then I see the birthday item vendor. He's selling party hats to celebrate the game's birthday. Now this is an investment opportunity. Party hats became insanely rare in RuneScape, and I missed my chance to have them back in the day. And here I am on the ground floor, the chance to invest. So obviously I liquidate all my savings and buy as many as I can. They can sit next to my Adventure Quest World's Platinum Dragon and RuneFest Flagstaff of festivities atop my pile of Funko Pops as my retirement plan. The prince gives me a magical rune of nature. Oh yeah, I forgot about all those magical orbs. And then we fix the Sword of Mercy. What a name. I'll put it by the Spear of Compassion, the Flail of Understanding, and the Razor Wire Cat of 9 Tails of Gentle Soothing. We use the fixed Sword of Mercy on the plagued and deliver some razor-sharp mercy right to their face, and then escort Dr. Ware deeper into the plague lab. Obvious Doctor Who joke there. We then unload another batch of steaming hot mercy onto this lone plague boss via my arrows of kindness. If you're watching and thinking, you know what, Eldevin looks pretty great, membership is only $7 a month, or $65 for a whole year, so as costs go, at least it's not unreasonably expensive. Level up in this forest until I can take on my first actual dungeon, the Vault, and this is where the plague is coming from. You journey through it, and it's actually somewhat challenging. You need to pick your fights and take on enemies from a distance. And each zombie I kill seems to be reducing my faction standing with the plagued. So that's a thing. You can apparently become BFFs with the evil zombies if you want to. Issue with the dungeon, however. The Vault instance has a mini-map, and the map has 2 zoom levels. The whole instance, or so close you can't actually do anything. Why? Why does the map zoom in this close? Turns out the plague is, to the surprise of no one, manufactured, and humans are the real monsters, and maybe the real treasure was the zombies we mercied to death along the way. More mini-bosses needing the patented hit and run technique, and then we open this valve, which drops some pipes into position, take the service lift down to the lowest levels and fight the Plague Doctor. Well, we fight the summoned Plague Baron, the Doctor themselves escapes. The Plague Baron fight has one mechanic: hit the enemy until they go and heal, and then hit them some more. I didn't say it was a complex or engaging mechanic, but it does exist. And now with the instance done, my quest tracker seems to have not updated. Not sure why. The instance has 11 steps in it, and I seem to be stuck on quest 2 despite the fact I've finished it. I even click on the quest name and it shows an arrow which leads me to a mini-boss's dead body. I even log out and in and it's still bugged, and I end up needing to reset the instance and redo the whole thing just to get this quest tracker to update. And by the time I've actually done this, I've collected all 3 gloves, the light, medium and heavy, from the dungeon set. And finally, after selling everything, I can afford a mount. At last, after 20 hours, I can realize my dream of becoming a Beyblade. Even after 20 hours, I'm still only 1/3 into the Plague storyline, so I've got some serious grinding to do, but for now I think I've seen enough. Eldevin is not a bad game in the same way that a pizza with a different topping on every slice isn't a bad pizza. There will be something that appeals to everyone, but just like the pizza, the variety of appealing to everyone means there's not enough focus to have a lasting or intense appeal to any single person. No one is ordering that pizza as their usual. It's a novelty. It's not your obsession. Eldevin is the kid at school that got on with everyone but didn't have a defined group they belonged in. It's a bland rock band, too rock for the pop crowd and too pop for the rock crowd. It's a stunningly brilliant example of how mediocrity doesn't actually appeal to anyone. You won't hate Eldevin because there's nothing to hate. But in the same way, you won't love it because there's nothing specific to love. It is the epitome of average, and if I didn't find the head up a sheep's arse animation glitch, I don't think I'd have found anything. So to end the review, I will award Eldevin fine. out of 10. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord. And as always, have a great day.